Okay, everybody, we're going to get started right on time, 9 o'clock-ish, 9:01. Welcome. My name is Mary Beth Hagel. I'm the Manager of Training and Instructional Support, formerly known as Training and Academic Technology. So this was if anybody has come to the Academic Technology Week in the past, this is, instead we're going to be having Teaching with Technology. We saw the sign up there in the beginning. And it's going to be a lecture series. This is the inaugural session, and this is going to be based on Blackboard. And we have a panel of faculty who have agreed to show us some interesting things that they do with Blackboard. And then after the next session, we're going to go over about cleaning up your courses and getting it ready for the next year. And then in the afternoon, we're going to go over some of the tools that the faculty panel discuss and show you how to use them and all the cool ways that you can use Blackboard. So we're going to get started by introducing yourself around the room, and let us know if you want to say something about Blackboard or something cool about Blackboard or something you're hoping you're going to learn today. That would be great. And we're not going to introduce the panel yet. Carlton's going to introduce you guys after I'm finished. So we'll start over with Myra.
Hi, I'm Myra from the Music Industry Department, and I love Blackboard, but I would also like to know, because Blackboard has a limited amount of space, I want to find out how to use other spaces to connect in with Blackboard.
Great, and we're going to do that today. Thank you.
I'm Patty Coughlin from Comp Studies, and my one thing that I love about Blackboard is lets me nudge my students towards success with the daily messages.
Great.
Keith Brand, radio, television, and film. I'm agnostic about Blackboard.
Well, maybe you'll change your mind after today.
I've been using it forever, but I'm just agnostic about it.
Okay, that's good to know.
I'm Alison Kaufman, Biological Sciences.
And you use Blackboard now?
I do.
Yes, okay, great. Cindy?
Cindy Vigo from English, and I'm relatively new to Blackboard, but my students love it, so I need to learn more.
Okay, great.
I'm George Romeo from accounting, and my wife made me come.
Hi, I'm Kathleen Miller from Philosophy. I use Blackboard and I like it, but I feel like it can do more, but I don't know how to do it.
Great.
I'm Ellen Miller from Philosophy, and I do use Blackboard. I'd like to organize my files better, learn how to do quizzes on there, where maybe, I don't know if Blackboard can grade it, have students post videos. I can't even do a sign-up sheet. I tried to. This is kind of where I am.
Okay, all right, great, thank you.
Thank you.
Bobby Bodycott, reading, used Blackboard for a long time and always looking for more ways to incorporate more into it.
Okay, great, thank you.
Sorry, I'm from the computer science department. I've been using Blackboard myself, but each time I try to get some innovation, I run into the wall. So I thought coming here, I can pick everybody's brain.
Okay, great, that's perfect, perfect way to do it here.
I'm Bob Eisberg from Reading, and I want to be able to use Collaborate and things that I have never tried.
Great, and by the way, one of our panel faculty here is on Collaborate right now. He's going to be demonstrating it and demonstrating his Blackboard. Good, thank you.
I'm Greg Eaton from Biological Sciences. I've been using Blackboard since I was a student, and one of mine and my students' favorite aspects is the calendar, where I can put a few dates and stuff.
Oh, okay.
Check it whenever they'd like.
Great.
David Garvey, I'm an adjunct. I teach school mathematics and then also the school business, and I've used Blackboard for so many things. Gradebook is fantastic, and being able to have the students see their grades prior to coming to class diffuses some of their surprise, and so it's a great tool.
By the way, we did a survey of the students, and Gradebook was their #1 favorite thing in Blackboard.
Because they know where they stand.
Right. Thank you.
Tim Donaldson, Writing Arts. I use Blackboard, but it's still like a mystery to me. I think I'm doing one thing and it doesn't happen on the other end, and so I have a lot to learn.
Okay, great. Well, hopefully that will happen today. And we have a few more faculty in the back.
Hello, good morning. My name is Lorena Santos Quiñones, and I teach for the Foreign Languages Department. And I have used Blackboard for many years now, but I would like to just get a little bit more information in the grade book and also video uploading and probably a little bit of information about Cultura. So pretty much that.
Great, we're going to go over all those things, so that's good.
Anna Lisa Riccio, I teach Italian, I'm from the Foreign Language Department. Our textbook in Italian has its own quarta form, but the students have mentioned Blackboard over and over and over, so I really want to learn how to use it. Also for the videos and other aspects of Blackboard, that the platform that we use for the Italian textbook do not have.
Okay.
So teach me everything.
Okay. And one more.
I'm Linda Pollack. I teach basic public relations writing and a few other public relations courses. And I've been using Blackboard now for a couple of years, but I'm always looking for new things that I can add to learning about it and making it best for my students.
Okay, great. And I think we have one more person coming.
Yep, my name's Russell Trafford. I'm from the Department of Electrical Computer Engineering, sort of like a TA adjunct. And a lot of the students end up telling us that they like to use Blackboard in their other classes. So, I mean, some professors over there do use it, some don't, and I think a lot more are going to start using it soon. Some kind of, maybe, I don't know if I'm the only one here from engineering. Is anybody else here from engineering? All right, cool. So I'm going to have to liaise all of engineering.
Thanks, everyone. And we also have our staff, our training and instructional support staff, who really worked hard to put this event together and make something nice for everybody. So we have Carlton Hughes, instructional designer and media person. Is that what your title is? Media person? Okay. And Sheena Pierce, who did all the back end work, just getting up the rooms and doing all the handouts and all that kind of stuff. And Aline Stutzback, and Blackboard instructional designer. See, I'm getting it right. Stephanie Mosher, system administrator and instructional designer. Okay, great. And also Stephanie's newly doing Qualtrics too, for those of you who are interested in Qualtrics. That's another whole subject. We're not doing it today. And Erica King is one of our trainers in training and instructional support training. Yep, that's what we are. And when we change our names, I just always forget it. I don't know why. But we do. Erica's one of the people that would do like Qualtrics training, not Blackboard, Banner training, those kind of like administrative kind of RIMS, all those kind of fun ones. Did I miss anybody? Shalonda. Shalonda's on the panel, so I'm going to let her introduce herself. But Shalonda helped a lot too with setting up this whole event. All right. Oh, also we have to thank the Faculty Center who co-sponsors this event with us, and they're going to be providing the lunch, which is going to be really nice, a salad bar with soup and stuff like that. And let me just make sure I have got everything here. Oh, you have the agendas are in your folder. Handouts for today should be in your folder. At lunchtime, we're going to also give you the agenda for the schedule for the summer for our Blackboard classes. We're getting those printed out and have those to you by lunchtime. We'll have a survey at the end that you can either take on your phone, or we'll have some iPads that you can do. And I think that's probably it. Restrooms are across the hall. So I'm going to hand it over to Carlton, who's going to be moderating the panel, the panel discussion about Blackboard. And thank you, everyone.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
So we're going to try to do this in a way that you can hopefully learn something that you may not have known before. So we tried to do this in a panel format, tried to find some people that are using Blackboard in some different ways, and you know, trying to do things that maybe everybody's not doing, so that they can present that to other people. So we have actually 5 panelists. You only see 4 people here at the table, but then we've got somebody here remotely, and that's Bill Smith coming in remote live. Can you hear us, Bill?
Yes, I can hear you.
Ah, fantastic. All right, so we've got 5 panelists here. Let me introduce them. We have Shalonda Gray, who...
I said hello. I'm sorry.
I'm not done.
Sorry for being friendly.
We're going to start out with, actually, you know, should we start out with Bill?
Sure.
Yeah, let's start out with Bill. We're going to start out with Bill Smith. He's an instructor in mathematics, and he's going to share with us how he uses wikis for notes and how to contain an ebook. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to first let Bill talk about what he does, then I'll go into the rest of the panel. So Bill?
Okay. What I'd like to try to do to explain to you what it is that I do. First of all, I'm sorry I couldn't be there to get the snacks and things, but in my living room up in Martha's Vineyard in Edgertown. And so, anyway, what I'd like to try to do is just basically show you what I have, and then allow you to pick up some questions that you can ask me during this session that you have. Let me try to share my content of my Blackboard, just to give you an idea. And when I first do this, it's going to look like something out of Alice in Wonderland. All right. You see how that? Let me take you to one of my pages that I used this past semester. And this is my Structures of Math 1. And you'll notice over on the left-hand side the types of things that I have up here that I've actually put in. I have a folder that contains all my planning files and my ebook. Through the last semester, we were using a book that I felt was not worthy of our students. I teach people that are going to be elementary teachers. Mathematics they're supposed to know. And I just felt that the books that we were using were not good enough. So I wrote my own, and you can see it's right here. And it should come up. There you go. But anyway, kids could go in online, and they could see that. If I go back, the other things you see up here are journal assignments, which I know some people are going to talk about using videos and things like that. So some of my journal assignments were in fact videos, and some of them were reading, but all required a response of a journal someplace. The first thing I actually put in what I'd like to talk about is I did the class notes, but I started to do them in a wiki format because I felt it would give the students an opportunity to add their own notes in addition to whatever I pasted in there. I'd like to tell you that happened quite frequently, but to be honest, nobody posted anything additional. Which is okay. Another piece of this is the fact that I had kids who I give take-home midterms, and so the students have to respond. And part of the reason I don't use the testing materials that are on Blackboard is because I require students not only to give me an answer, but to show me their thinking that goes through in coming up with the answer. And it's just difficult to put in that regard. But the thing that really frustrated me is I had some kids that turned their tests in on the due date, and they didn't even attempt problems. And all they had to do was go to the notes, if they forgot how to do it, or if they missed class. That was the purpose I do it, is to make sure that they're there. And then finally, because I give take-homes, if you're not there to get it, I have a place where you can actually go and get the quests, in this case, from the website. And they can download it and actually write on it there, or if they're savvy enough with technology, they can actually do their test online and submit it that way. I had one student about 3 years who did that, but nobody else does that. So I guess they don't mind looking at their phones, but they have trouble actually communicating through that. But anyway, that's kind kind of where I am. I guess I would leave it up to you as to what you want to see me do. And I'll shut up and introduce the other people and let them talk about what they're going to do, and then I'll be around. I don't know if you can see it, but I got my poodle just walked up next to me. Fortunately, he walks up on the left, so I can still use my mouse.
All right, thanks, Bill.
Yep.
So at the end, we're going to allow everyone, I've got some questions I'm going to ask the panel, and you guys can feel free to ask questions. Keep in mind everybody's topic, and we'll berate them with some questions later on. All right, so next we're going to go to Dr. Shalonda Gray, who is a learning space coordinator, and she is in the division of IRT, and she teaches a class called Identity, Culture, and Democracy, and she's going to share with us how she focuses on course design and maximizing her content using Google Drive.
Sorry, everyone. I'm looking at Stephanie trying to figure out which display I should use. So, good morning, everyone. My name is Shalonda Gray, and the course that I teach is called Identity, Culture, and Democracy: Being an American. So it's heavily discussion-based, and we discuss topics from gender to sexuality to religion, all within the context of American society and democracy. So a couple of things that I want to show you are related to course design, also related to, I'm trying to find that number there, 26. Course design, video in your Blackboard course, as well as using Google Drive. Excuse me. So I'm in the student view of my course right now, and I guess the first thing I'll start off with is course design. I was speaking with Nicole this morning about the structure of your course and how no matter how structured you are, students still are going to tell you that they cannot find things. So whether you organize by week, by date, by subject, they're still going to say, I can't find the quiz, when you can clearly see there's a quizzes folder right there. So what I've done is based on, I gather feedback from my students mid-semester and at the end of the semester just to get some information about how they feel about the course design. Like, is it easy to find things? What do you like about the course? What do you dislike? And so I make changes. So I've put the quizzes in the weekly assignments folder. I've taken them out. None of it seems to work for every student. So you have to find what works best for you and what you think may accommodate the students the best. So as you can see, my structure is, I have pretty much everything on the first page. Let me go to the video portion. So I use video in a few different ways. I use it for my evening section. I actually made a syllabus overview, a video for my syllabus. And you may not be aware of this, but we have a recording studio in our suite in 176. So, I can hear sound. So this video, Carlton. Okay, so Carlton helped to produce, Carlton and our work study students helped to produce this video, which is actually in our Kaltura media service. So within the
culture and democracy, being an American.
So within the course, they just click on the link and it begins the video of the syllabus. So it's not me reading word for word the syllabus, it's me picking out points of the syllabus that I think are most important for them to know, because we all know that the students will not read the syllabus word for word. So my syllabus overview is about 5 minutes long, and it covers just the basics, what I need to explain to them, because we know that some students don't come to the first class, they may miss that, so this will allow them to be caught up. And if you want to do this, Carlton is the person that you need to go to for that. He will be able to schedule something, and it looks really nice with the design behind me, but it was really done with a green screen, so all of that stuff was done after the fact. Another way that I use video in my courses is in my discussion boards. So as I said before, my course is pretty heavily discussion-based. But sometimes I don't want to show long videos in the class because it's going to take up the times that I need to discuss with the students. So again, in Kaltura, I have multiple videos within discussion posts that I just clicked off of. And this is simple. Later on in the day, we will go through how to create a discussion post with an embedded video from Kaltura. I know that someone mentioned space in their course. I think it was you, Myra. One way to reduce your course, the size of your course, is to put video in Kaltura and just link out to it. So lastly, Google Drive. Google Drive is also the answer to that space issue that has been brought up and that is probably on everyone's mind. So at Rowan, every faculty member, professional, or staff member, student has a Google Drive with unlimited space. So this is what you need to use. Use this as your repository and link to those documents, those large PDFs, those videos that you need to link to, and then you won't run out of space in Blackboard. So as an example here, I have the course syllabus. In addition to the video syllabus, I link to my written course syllabus in Google Drive. The only thing that the students need to do is access the document using their Rowan Google Drive account. Because if they use their personal account, they're going to there's a message will come up, you need access to this. And this happens all the time. Students will send me messages, hey, from funky59 at G. And I'm like, no, you must use your Google account. So, and you'd be surprised, even at the end of the semester, they're still doing the same thing. So it's something that you just have to continually reiterate to them. You must use your Google account. Let's see, was that it? Oh, the last thing, with video, I mentioned that I use video to provide video to the students for discussion, but you can also provide a video assignment to students so that they can record their assignment as a video. So for some of the discussions, well, for many of the discussions, what I did was I provided them the option to either write their discussion response or to post a video. And it's very simple. It's just in the setup of well, actually, no. Once you create the discussion, you just have to make sure that the Kaltura mashup is available in the discussion, and then they'll be able to use it. So I know I've given you a lot, and all of this will be discussed later on, but I just wanted to show you that it can be done, and it's not really that hard. You have to put in a little work at the beginning, but it will be beneficial to you in the end. So I'm finished.
Okay, finally. Just kidding. I always mess with her.
Always.
We're like brothers and sisters that don't like each other.
Yes.
Okay, she tried to run me over yesterday after the softball game.
I did.
All right, next up, Stacy Calloway, and she is an adjunct professor in the sociology department. She's going to discuss how she uses Collaborate and videos in Blackboard discussions.
Good morning.
Or
Thank
classroom.
you for having me this morning. I'm going to piggyback off a little bit of what Dr. Gray just mentioned. I'll start first with the videos. I also use videos to introduce my syllabus, much like you do. But one thing that I've created are what I call nutshell videos. With each respective content that we're learning for that particular week, I'll create basically a highlight video of the most important concepts related to that subject matter. Here on campus, I am an adjunct in the sociology department, but I'm also a full professor over at RCGC in the business studies division. So when you mentioned accounting, I immediately thought, perfect, I'll use my nutshell videos to highlight things like the accounting equation, something that students, hits a major stumbling block right from the start of the semester. Or I'll use, say for sociology, I'll do a quick nutshell video of the top 3 theories that sociologists use. That way the students, they understand, look, from all the material that we've learned this particular week, here's the most important information that you need to take away from that. And I keep the videos really short. My goal is 5 minutes or less. How can I summarize this chapter in 5 minutes or less? And I like to use the video like you did, showing myself, but I also will use the screen capture feature, where I'll prepare a presentation, say just quick couple slides on PowerPoint, and I'll do the voiceover and click through the PowerPoint so the students can see that. I wasn't aware that Carlton offered the resource where he can help you prepare much more professional videos. I prefer to use Camtasia Relay just because I've used it for so many years. It offers some editing features, and I can do it also from the comfort of my own home. As far as actually using Collaborate, that's another tool that I feel is really beneficial for us as professors and also for our students, because it allows for us another avenue to communicate and to, no pun intended, to collaborate, which we saw just here this morning with Bill, who's here remotely with us. And I use Collaborate for a few different ways in my classrooms. One is live instruction, especially if it's a season where I might have to cancel class because of weather. Well, especially this past season, a few classes were greatly impacted. That's a lot of content that we might miss. So I'll offer to the students, look, if you can't make it to campus, or I can't even make it to campus, I'll do a live instruction. We can all be together, much like we were just this morning, and I'll cover the material. An advantage of that is not only can it be live, but we'll see later this afternoon that you can record those sessions as well. So if a student cannot make it to the live session, they simply can pull up the recording, and it's very beneficial. Also, I like to use Collaborate for office hours. Being an adjunct, there's no formal requirement that I hold office hours here, but I do have them over at my other office. And my Rowan students may not be able to make it over there, so I'll offer to them online hours. This is also really helpful, especially when we get into finals week. I might hold a review session on Collaborate, and I'll say to the students, hey, from 8 to 9 tonight, I'll be on Collaborate. Join me. I'll run through a quick Q&A with you. And it just really allows for a lot of flexibility, not just for the students, but also for me, too. I can use it right from the comfort of my home office. And I also like to use Collaborate for the tutoring aspect of it as well. You can see what Bill demonstrated just quickly this morning is that I can take the students in the classroom or show them a document and run through that with them. Say, for example, you have a major writing assignment that the students are required to do. I could bring up the instructions, review with the students if they hear the instructions, and then also what questions do you have, what concerns do you have. And I could also demonstrate to them, say I'm teaching my paralegal students how to write a divorce complaint. I can show the students, look, here's how you actually format the document, or here are additional resources that you can use. It just really allows for a lot of that remote collaboration, but also just another way for the students to have access to us. One other quick tip that I like using Collaborate for is that there can be breakout chat rooms as well. I don't particularly assign too much formal group work, but I'm sure that there's folks in the room who might assign group assignments. This is a great way that the students can, instead of having to meet at a certain locale, they can all get on Collaborate and work together. And all they need is either a headset, or if you just bring up your laptop, if you have a Mac, you have your microphone and your video installed right there. It's really easy to use. Oh, I should mention too, they're going to show you some other tricks this afternoon, but it's available not only on the computer, but also on mobile as well. So students can use their iPads or cell phones and things so they can easily access it.
Cool. Thank you, Steve. All right. So it's interesting that you were talking about the Camtasia. So, and I'm not sure whether we're going to go over this later on today, but in Kaltura, you can also do recordings as well. So you can do lecture capture within Kaltura. And I think we're going to talk about that. Okay, fantastic. All right, so next we have Nicole Vaughn. She's an assistant professor in health and exercise science, and she's going to focus on her success and challenges with the gradebook and the discussion board. Take it away.
All right. So I'm in health and exercise science, as Carlton said, and I've become very familiar with this Blackboard staff over my time. I've only been here at Rowan for about a year and change, and I have become very familiar with everybody here because I've asked lots of questions and have gotten lots and lots of help, which I really truly appreciate. My course that I teach is Program Planning and Leadership course. It's a junior, senior level course, which requires a major group project along the way. So similar to Stacy, I also use tools for the students to be able to collaborate together on their group projects. I primarily use the Google Drive and have the students sort of work on their major paper, their major presentation through using their Rowan Google Drive as part of the semester. Specifically going back to sort of gradebook and my successes and challenges, one of the things that when I first came to Rowan and teaching multiple sections of the same course, one of the things that Eileen had recommended to me was to create different groups within Blackboard, so that when I send out communication, that it goes to all of the sections at the same time. If I move assignments around, all of the sections are getting the same information at the same time, because before I used Blackboard and had sort of different shells for each course. I also started doing quizzes online, and Blackboard is really great about this. Like if you can create like a test bank and you can pull the questions for each quiz weekly, you can give students a time limit, you can randomize the question attempts. There's like many ways that Blackboard can sort of automate some of that. The other thing that I did my first semester here, which students didn't like, was I gave the midterm online. So I used the computer lab space, so that was more of a challenge because I had to request computer lab space in order for students to sit and take the midterm all at the same time, but I had to travel for research and other things, and I felt like this would be a way to sort of automate some of that. The students didn't like it. I liked it because I was in California. All the grades sort of came in, and it worked out beautifully for me, but the students are like, we don't want to take the midterm online. So that was my first attempt. So I've tried lots of different things in my short time here and found kind of what the students like, what I like, that sort of thing, and sort of it's back and forth, trying to figure that out. I've also had students use a discussion board to share articles. So for the final project, they have to create an executive summary. I've had students use the discussion board to upload their executive summary as well as 2 peer-reviewed articles that they found that while they were putting their project together that they think would be helpful for the other students to read. And because what I found is when they do that final group presentation, everybody's sitting there, not as engaged. And so this was a way that they needed to create the executive summary, put 2 articles. Everybody had to come to class with questions based off of that executive summary, so that when that open discussion time happened, everybody should have at least 3 questions about the presentation. So presentation that they're watching, but also some of the things that they've read. I ran that the first time this semester, and I think that worked really well. I had the students all turn in their questions so I could see who actually did it and gave them, a few points for doing that. The other thing I had them do as part of their program project is they have to do a marketing portion for their program. And some students decided to do sort of a mini video. So they created their own video and then uploaded that for other students to be able to see. Some of the challenges that I have had has been, I first started using Turnitin because I had used it at a previous institution and found that there was such a delay sort of with Turnitin coming into the system that it was recommended to use SafeAssign, and I found that SafeAssign had many of the same features that Turnitin did. The thing that I liked originally about Turnitin, SafeAssign now has. Turnitin had the ability for you to sort of mark up a document the same way you would mark up and track changes in Word. SafeAssign now has that ability, so you can sort of read you could read a student's paper and then literally put the comment bubbles all along the paper so that you can sort of put the comments right there where you want to add those in. And SafeAssign really loads really nicely into Blackboard, and you're able to sort of type comments on the side, and then the students can see all of that. One of the other features I really like about the gradebook, which I've been using this semester, is when students don't turn in things, or if they do turn in things, you can put the grade in, but then there's the quick comments, and you can just type in a quick comment right there. For me, trying to sort of automate as much as possible so that students can be right up to speed with where their grade is, which is one of the issues I'm trying to sort of work out over time, is being able to say, quiz was due midnight yesterday, you didn't turn it in. And so being able to put those notes right there so that it can sort of stop all those additional emails of, can I take this again? I missed it, I did this. So it makes it easier for me to just have that quick comments, put it right there, and then it lines up right for the student to be able to see what's missing. The thing, sort of the bigger challenge I have, so I've come and used a points-based system for my course. So the students have a total of 750 points. I've realized that I've been here 3 semesters and the points keep increasing, which I think now I probably need to sort of change that. Like 750 points to get started at 500. But I've been talking with Eileen particularly about moving from points-based to sort of a weighted system. And so I took the advanced Blackboard session that the staff here held back in January, and that was really helpful, so I can start to see how I can move from points, like every assignment having points, to a weighted based system where it would take all of the quizzes and make it 10% of their grade and all of the, but you have to in Blackboard create separate categories for all of these different assignments, which I need to figure out how to do. And but one of the things I think that sort of in all of my time what's been really helpful is the staff here, because I've asked all kinds of questions. I call immediately and I get a response immediately via email, via phone call back. They jump right into the course and figure it out. So I'm still sort of tweaking some things, but I feel like the staff here has been extremely helpful. What I found is that finally is that this past semester with this group assignment that the students had to work on, one group did exceptionally well. And I thought, this is exactly kind of what I wanted. Sort of when it all comes together, it's just like, wow, this is great. And I remembered, I think Shalonda mentioning, or Eileen mentioning that they have this video capture. So I asked the students, I said, would you be willing to just basically have your presentation videotaped? And the students were so excited. They were like, really? I'm like, you have to come, you dress professionally, we'll go and put you in front of the green screen, and they were shocked, right? And I said, you could put this on your resume and say, you gave a professional presentation, it's videotaped. And so they came here, this is after the class is over, they all got dressed up, came and they gave their presentation, and so we captured it on video, and we're still in the process of, Carlton, we're editing their video down. But then I can use that to show students in the future, this is what I'm looking for. This is the level of professionalism that I'm looking for the presentation. This is the quality. These are the different components. And it wasn't perfect, but it was close to what I want for students to sort of be able to produce at the end. So I'm looking forward to having that video for the next semester as an example for students. So those are some of my successes and challenges with Gradebook and Blackboard overall.
Well, thank you, Nicole. As soon as I can get a student worker, we will finish up your video. My student worker is not with me for another 2 weeks. He'll be back shortly. And last, but definitely not least, we have Lark Perez, who is an associate professor in chemistry and biochemistry. He's going to showcase how he uses Blackboard to deliver pre-lecture videos. And so with that, Lark, take it away.
Yeah. So to reiterate what Nicole said, and I think it's absolutely right, the group that we have here is probably one of the most helpful, most professional and fastest response units at Rowan. It's really awesome working with them, and they've done an amazing job. From maybe about 4 years ago, when Carlton was the first who, I think himself, uploaded all of the first pre-lecture videos that I did. And so I teach organic, and there were a couple of motivations into this idea of trying to flip the class. I think it's been an idea that's gone around a lot. And so the flipped class for me, I don't think works. And there are some challenges with it that we can talk about. But what I've sort of settled on is this second generation version of how to deliver some video content in order to open up more time during the lecture for doing problem solving. Because ultimately, for a lot of the very science-heavy classes, the challenge, it's not a question of whether students can regurgitate material. Do they understand the facts, or do they have this list of information? Are they basically talking textbooks? That's not what we want to test for. We want to test for their ability to use that information and apply it to some new complex problem that they haven't seen yet before. And so really where students struggle going into their exams is in that translation of information from the textbook to new applications. And so if I can get some of my lecture content out of the lecture periods, that opens up that period for me to do practice problems and interact with the class a little bit more. When you take this to the extreme and basically strip the class of any sort of formal lecture, in my experience, that doesn't work very well for me. And I think a lot of that falls on the fact that ends up placing too much emphasis on what the students are doing outside of class. So they are fully responsible for all the foundational content outside of class. And that's the idea of a genuinely flipped classroom. I've struggled with that a little bit. I haven't yet been able to implement that. So this is sort of like a half-flipped classroom. I like to say we've sort of half-flipped the classroom right on its face. But it's so far, I think, been a nice balance of the two ideas. And so I have three sections of pre-lecture videos, and I had started with making sort of trying to do a little bit more micromanaging and dividing these up into day by day or week by week sections, and then have Blackboard quizzes that followed the videos in order to make sure that they watched the videos, they had to do the quiz. And it ended up becoming a micromanaged nightmare. And so instead of doing that, what I do now is I actually just break it into 3 groups and I make them fully available. I don't make them mandatory. I say this is an alternative to reading your textbook, right? And I still assign textbook. I say if you like my videos, go ahead and watch them. This is the critical content out of your textbook that I want you to have as foundational information coming into class. And I guide them with the sections that we're covering as opposed to specific dates. Instead of telling them this is due this date, students will sometimes say, well, why did you make 40 minutes worth of video due on a Thursday? You know I can't watch 40 minutes of video between Tuesday and Thursday. Well, no, I'll just instead do it by sections. And so the videos are between 20 and 40 minutes long each. I am constantly trying to cut them down from the initial versions. The initial versions were essentially just recordings of me giving lecture. That's massively boring. It's mind-numbing. I can't even watch my own lectures. So this is a second generation version of these. And so these are about 20 minutes long, and as I said, they're alternative to reading the textbook. And so this has been running for about two years, and so over 2 years, you can see that we're up at around 300 views. That's not necessarily actual legitimate views of the entire video. But these are all done by screen capture, and it seems to be that there is a good number of students who do engage in them, and I've gotten comments that students appreciate that. So these are entirely screen capture, and I'm gonna.
We will not see them within the context.
We don't need to hear my voice. And so it's done very low budget. This is a collection of slides that come from either the textbook or from my own creation, and I rarely use slides for class, and so putting together the slides was one of the major challenges. And then all I have here is an easy little thing where you make a little circle around your cursor. It's fairly low budget. And then I use QuickTime screen capture to record the video, which is just a nice function on QuickTime. And then use iMovie to edit them, upload it onto the media space. In order to display the videos. Now, in Shalanda's overview of her course, you saw the very nice embedded functionality, and that's ultimately something that can very easily be translated to from where I am now. It's something that I spoke with Carlton earlier this past semester about doing, and unfortunately never really had the time to. And so these are just simply set up as links to the videos from the media space, and so just to share this Cultra link is what I connect to here. So that's one mechanism in which I've used the videos, and I find that just giving them access to all of the videos has been the most productive for me. The second area where the videos have been useful is in the context of the laboratory, and so this comes up for a variety of reasons. And one challenge we have is that because organic chemistry, like many of the larger classes here at Rowan, are taught divided up, chopped up into a bunch of different sections. And so you have 300 or so students taking organic chemistry. They're ultimately going to get a grade in organic chemistry, but then they're chopped up into sections of 24 or 48, depending on what model you're running in. And there should, I believe, they're getting a grade in organic chemistry. That is, they're getting a grade respective to their 300 peers, although each individual faculty are giving them a grade or teaching them the content in small little truncated sections. And so there should be some overarching unification to the course, divided among those multiple sections that are underneath that course. And so one way to do this is by trying to generate this unified content or unified information for all of the students, irrespective of what section they're in. And this is something that we've been working with, especially in the lab area, where we've developed a laboratory manual, and this is just a PDF that we put together, so that all the labs being run by all these 300 students, this helps for just logistical nightmares, so that the lab prep is being done for the exact same lab for every student who's taking the course every week, as opposed to Professor A saying, well, I want to teach this topic first, and so could you please run this lab, and then Professor B saying, could you switch out the lab, and I want to run this lab, and so it becomes just a logistical nightmare. And so we've unified the lab curriculum for all of the sections, and then we've also I put together a series that is now used across the department, a series of videos for pre-lab instruction. And so these take the place of, or should not take, sorry, I don't mean take place of, but these are used in addition to any pre-lab instruction that the laboratory faculty member or instructors wish to provide. And this is something that's been important for us for a couple of reasons. And the first is that as we've moved towards the double model, which is common in many of the science courses, where one faculty member will teach a 48-student section as lecture only, and then a separate faculty member will teach the lab. It's often difficult to have communication go efficiently between the faculty member teaching the lecture and the faculty member teaching the lab. And this is exaggerated even a little bit further when we're now using, in many of our labs, we use TAs from the master's program. So now we're relying on master's students in order to serve the role of instructor. And so we want to make sure that the content that they're delivering in these labs is at the right level and is providing the information that is necessary. And so a series of videos in order to work with the lab instructors in order to provide that laboratory content is also set up. And right now, in order to distribute this, again, it's not very pretty looking, but it's just simply a PDF that has a series of links that all, again, link to that media space location, and similarly videos that give instruction about, in this case, infrared spectroscopy.
See that the lab is set up.
And going over what they need to do, right? And so for labs that require some actual experimentation, presumably, I think there's slightly different setups. Right, so here you can see just me with the video recorder in front of my face doing what would essentially be a pre-lab instruction, which you would anticipate the lab instructor to do to discuss what the content of the lab is going to be that day and some key experimental procedures that they might have to engage in.
Fantastic. Thanks, Lark. So, we've heard from all of our panelists. Now it's time to grill them. Questions and hopefully get some answers. Does anybody have any questions they want to get out of their system real quick and before they forget? Or should I just, you have a question?
I had a question that actually was for Bill and Mark. Because you both Bill made this point yesterday, and you made it today, about the flipped classroom not necessarily working for him. He was saying he gave too much instruction in his videos so that students weren't learning how to problem solve. is he listening to me? Yeah. Bill, I was wondering, you had mentioned yesterday about how you gave too much information in your video, so you kind of pulled back with the use of video. Can you address that, like how that happened?
I need to hear the question again.
Okay.
I got a phone call.
You mentioned yesterday that you started out with more of a flipped classroom, but you felt like you were giving students too much information?
As I said before, I teach people who are going to be elementary teachers. And just a little bit of research. When I have my classes tend to be somewhere in the neighborhood of 36 to 40. And when I asked at the start of the year, the semester, I asked the kids, how many people are comfortable with mathematics? And I might get 6 hands out of 36. The reality is that research shows that 1/3 of all elementary teachers in the United States are math-phobic. Now imagine what's coming out of their classrooms mathematically in that case. So my job is to change that around. And as I've worked through this stuff, one of the things I found kind of relates to a quote that John Hope made, and that is that learning is not the outcome of the teacher. Learning is the outcome of the activities of the learner. And so the reality is we have to make our kids more active. And I found that even using the flipped classroom, I felt I was telling the kids too much. And so I stopped using the flipped classroom, but let me just show you something. If I can do this quickly, go back to the Alice in Wonderland picture. If I go, one of the things I decided to do this semester is actually in my my ebook, I put in there, you'll notice here optional, and here optional. This optional is a video on the Hindu-Arabic number system. Well, the reality is that this is something I had done a couple years ago as a pre-class video. So what I'm offering it here is that if you need more than what you got in the class and what you got through the reading and what have you, you can go to this video. You can watch it as many times as you want. So I actually continued to use these, but not as a pre-class video. The reality is my classrooms are all set up to be students active. My kids sit in groups. They're responsible for working with each other, and I present them with problems all of the time, so that they're constantly interacting with each other on how to solve it. You can't teach people to think mathematically by doing the thinking for them. And that's kind of the reason I kind of backed off on the pre-class videos, or the flipped classroom type of thing. My kids now do all the work, period.
Lark, can you talk a little bit more about why you decided not to flip?
And I think Bill hit it right on. If I can just show, so the similar in a similar vein, I agree, and I think there is that issue of perhaps too much information and trying to do the work for the students, whether it's by lecturing or just by, I can convey this information to you and sort of bludgeoning it into their heads. And so the videos again are these optional videos, and instead what I have is an just obscene list of practice problems. And so this is P1 through P6. So this is the first third of the course, and each of these are they're egregiously long. So this is a 50-page practice packet. And so what I tell the students is you should do every single one of these. There are maybe 300 problems for them to work within the first third of my class. There is no likely way that the students will actually complete all of them. But the idea is, the hope is, and what I've seen as the mechanism here is that throughout the class, groups of students will get different parts of these 300 questions done. And then when we come into class, I will randomly go through each of these during our class period and go through I'll go through a couple of pages at a time, and students will say, hey, stop, could you do that problem? And that way I can hit on the ones that the students have now self-identified as being the ones that they weren't able to get. The ones that they are able to get, I don't need to stop and talk to them about. I can instead focus on the content that they are not able to complete and the practice problems that they are not able to complete. And then going through it, I also have a couple that I intend on going and hitting on that I've recognized as being especially challenging from previous classes. So in that sense, too much information, I think, also is where my videos had some challenges.
Sure.
So I teach mathematics, specifically Stat 1, Stat 2 biometry, and I've also taught business courses. But the way I approach it is I actually start with what the outcomes should be for what I want to test them on, the tests themselves. So what specific skills should they be able to master? And then starting with that, I do typical lecture problem demonstrations in class to support that. But I think the real learning takes place by giving them a practice test session, class meeting before the actual test. And it's a shortened version, it's half the actual test length, and that's where they panic. They just, hey, wow. They haven't been doing problems up till then. And I allow them to work in groups of 3 or 2, and they work through 2/3 of the period, and then at the end, we go through some of them. We don't have time to go through all of them, but at that point, they get serious. The collection of homework is one way you can, kind of ensure that you're going to try some of the problems along the way. So what I do using Blackboard is I create an assignment, and I ask them to use their phone, take a picture of their homework. They can take a picture of the calculator, and then upload it to Blackboard as an assignment. And it's really easy just to open it up, and I scan and I can see if they've done the problem, they've done the work, assign point values, say, no, this is incomplete. And collecting paper homework assignments is, totally unmanageable when there's so many sections. And this way, you give them points. The rubrics are easy. If it's everything I ask for, it's 2 points. If it's missing something, it's 1. If it's sloppy or incomplete, it's 0. And so it takes no time at all. I collect homework 7 collection points. It takes me no time to grade it with Blackboard. It goes right to my grade book. So those are some of the things. But getting back to the point of the flipped classroom, I do have lots of videos, especially on the use of the calculator and on some of the concepts. But what I try to focus on is the core mission, which is I want them to be able to master certain level of problems before they walk out of the course. And that seems to work out.
Anybody else? Yes.
I have a question about the videos. One is like the pre-lecture videos, which I think is a great idea, and the other is about students uploading videos. I also have a discussion-based class, it's political philosophy, so I usually have students, we do presentations in class, but now and they're supposed to be short 5-minute presentations, but then we discuss afterwards. It kills the half of the class period. So I'm running out of time to actually get over the material. So I was trying to think for this fall if I could get them to do their presentations and upload their presentations, and then have kind of maybe mandatory responses from the rest of the class. I couldn't figure out how to get them to upload it and be able to see each other's work. So I'm thinking that must be in the discussion board. But I don't know do they have to have any kind of special, how do they, I'm really not good with the software. I don't know how, I know they probably are fine. They probably can record it and do everything fine and upload it, but I don't know if they all have to be on the same system or platform, or how do they upload this video?
So there's a couple of ways they can do it. They can record the video on their phone and then upload that even using the Kaltura mashup. And then, so if a student uploads the video directly to Blackboard, it's still going into Blackboard storage. But if you require them to upload it to the Kaltura mashup,
Okay.
it will, not only will it go to Kaltura, which is outside of Blackboard, but they will be able to access it even beyond the course, because it always stays with them. So while it's dedicated to your course, it's dedicated to their Kaltura account as well.
Okay.
And it's simple to do. It's just once you create the discussion, I do provide, I can show you I provide instructions for them to use the Kaltura mashup.
Okay.
Because oftentimes students will upload it directly to Blackboard instead. And I use that as a teachable moment because I won't accept the assignment that
Okay.
way. I force them to do it the correct way.
Okay. Because this past semester is the first time I actually got a discussion board working. But
Okay.
they all uploaded it differently. Some were attaching files, some wrote it right. It was much nicer when it was already right there in the students because they had to reply to each other's. But some you had to they had uploaded some kind of something, and half of them you had to download, and then they came as different. Some are Google Docs, some are coming as Word. So nobody, and I didn't give them instructions, of course, because I assumed like it was just going to pop up. But we had like 3 different ways, and I was like, well, that was a fail on my part because I didn't know to give them instructions. So this is a good point. I wouldn't have known to tell them about the video. Okay.
And so one of the things, if you do find problems like that where you don't know how to tell, maybe you can come to us and we'll have our students put together a video that shows them exactly what steps they're supposed to do.
Oh my gosh, okay. This is my problem. I feel like, I didn't even know to ask the question because I didn't know until it was sort of semi-failure. Now I know, okay.
So for this, this is their very first assignment. It's called Let Me Take a Selfie assignment, and they are introducing themselves to their classmates. So I think in a previous version of this, I actually spelled out how to upload the video using Kaltura, but there are, I linked out to Blackboard help instead, and it actually shows you how to upload the video using it's down there somewhere. This has changed. They keep updating this, and that's Ultra also. So when you put links into your Blackboard courses, make sure you review them to make sure that what you're putting in there. But actually, it is here. So this is showing the inside of the discussion window, or what the submission window looks like. And it shows you here that you're going to use this mashup drop down. So if I can go back to, let's see. So if I go to edit this, because this is the actual assignment. So so here, this is what the mashups drop down looks like. And the first option there is the Kaltura media option. So if you can think of this as the student view, and I would go to the student view, but I can't go to it. I thought I had put a due date on here that restricted them. So if a student is going into this assignment, they're going to create a thread, and when they go to submit, so this is the student's view, they will title their assignment, and then here they will click on the Kaltura mashup, which brings up the Kaltura plugin, and here are the options you can either upload a video, so if they have recorded it with their phone, some students even have their own YouTube pages, so they'll put it up to their YouTube page or YouTube account and then submit it that way. So it's simple. It's just you have to tell them and be very intentional about how you want the assignment to be submitted. And I haven't had any issues with I've had minor issues with them submitting it the right way. And as long as I reiterate the directions to them, they will submit it the right way.
Great.
And thank you.
Could you click back to your classroom?
Sure.
In addition to posting like instructions for specific assignments or even the content, like the pre-lectures or nutshell videos, one video that I create that students have responded positively to is just here's how to access Blackboard video, and here are the resources in the classroom. So you could create a video that would say, okay, well, if you click here, My Grades, that's how you would check your grades, or Course Gallery or the library. Because I get a lot of intro students, fall, first time on a college campus, what's Blackboard? So I just created a quick video that says, here's how to navigate and here's the resources. Because I will do it quickly the first day of class to a stunned group of students, and they leave feeling overwhelmed or frustrated. So here's just a quick video again to just show you how to navigate that classroom and the different resources that we have available for you.
And just to piggyback on that, I have these, how to check your grades, how to use Blackboard discussions. This is where I was looking for creating the video using Kaltura Media Space, and also how to use the YouTube video assignment.
I wanted to piggyback onto what both of you were saying, because from an instructional design perspective, I sometimes forget, since I live in the Blackboard world all the time, that not only do we have students that are coming in that might not have used an LMS before, but we might have other students who are using different LMSs. So whether it be Canvas or Desire to Learn, wherever they come from, they might be using something different. So the tool itself can be confusing because they don't know how to use it. So from an instructional design perspective, a video of telling them where to go, or even just a linking a course menu telling them, start here, work through, this is the discussion board, this is Collaborate, we're going to be using this for office hours. There's a variety of ways that you can do it to make it a little bit easier. You're still going to have students who, like Shalonda said, I don't know where it is, even though there's a button that says start here or a folder that says quizzes. But there are a variety of ways that you can work around giving access to your materials so that, if you do get those few emails where they're just not looking because they're oblivious, you can say, it says start here, go there.
One of the things that I, even with that, so I have that sort of intro and welcome, at the top. But one of the things I've realized is that each week, I have to have at the beginning of that folder, all of the instructions, and I've had to repeat the instructions for things that are going to be due. They have these professional development hours that they're due by the end of the semester, and so by having the same information sort of consistent across, I know they could say well, we can't find it. It's well, did you look in the section that just says assignments and readings or whatever, and all that stuff is listed there, and that those deadlines sort of repeat week to week so that they could sort of see it. And this time I had so many fewer students sort of get to the end and not have the things that they needed to get done because they were oh, okay. And then midway through the semester, I always sort of check in, and then I put those quick notes. I've checked, you have 0 professional development hours, and you need 20. You need to get sort of moving. So I think those those little, Blackboard has ways you can sort of just copy paste and click things in really easily so that you can sort of try to manage some of that for them. But part of the skill, I'm teaching juniors and seniors, and they tell me they don't understand Blackboard. I really gone through multiple years. I just don't, and I sort of feel and this is my own bent, we're putting out, fellow citizens that are going to be out there in the world. Some of this you're going to have to ask the questions, figure out what, sort of have some cognitive flexibility, not have us tell you everything. These are all skills that I'm also trying to embed within the course. It's okay, if you don't know, then ask a question. If you don't know, ask a group member. If you don't know, then these are your other ways, because in the working world, that's what you're going to have to do, right? You just can't say, I don't know, and then freeze. You have to say, I don't know, now what's my next best move, right? And so I try to tell the students that over time, and most of the time students are starting to sort of get it, But.
I have a question about, a few of you say that you use Collaborate, and some people are talking about Google Drive. So I have semester-long research projects. I typically have the students develop a Google Drive page, and then they just share that link with me so that I can sort of spy on them, and they can, I can see what they're progressing, who's submitting. What's the advantage of doing Collaborate versus just having them do their own Google Drive sharing?
So the Collaborate and Google Drive are two different things. So Collaborate is what you're seeing here. It's video based. So this is it's an interactive web-based video tool.
So it's all video.
Yes.
Like WebEx, if you've ever had a
video
Skype or something.
So I don't really do video with my students,
okay.
Right? But I'm looking at what who's posted documents, right? So who's posted the primary papers they need for the thing? Where's the data? How do they do that? So I do that all on Google Drive. So Collaborate is just video, or is there a place where you make a group in Blackboard?
Yes.
Is that better or worse than having them do it on a Google Drive?
So you can make groups within Blackboard, but for what you're explaining, and I'm not sure I don't think you've explained it fully, but it doesn't sound like you necessarily would need the group just so that you could see their progress. The group functionality within Blackboard is more so that, like, if you're assigning a group assignment or a group project, you would put the groups together so that only the group can see what's in that folder, or you can make a collaborate group so that only that group can go into the collaborate session at that time. So I'm sure that groups will be explained a little bit later on today also.
Yeah, and I just want to add on to that is that they can be used interchangeably. So like Shalonda's saying, you can create a group so that your group can submit one assignment. But at the same time, you can have that assignment take place within Google Drive. And then what they're doing is just posting a link in the assignment, a group assignment within Blackboard. They're submitting their Google Drive link to there so that only members in their group and you can see it, and that not everyone in the class can get to that link. So they can be used interchangeably that way.
Okay. Yeah, and I think that's what I'm doing, right? I just was wondering, this other thing where these groups work
my
together.
project is similar to yours. Like, they are working primarily in Google Drive, and then I just have them, and now it's good to know that they can put a link up. But now I have them, just one person from the group submits with all the information, and then I'm able to look and then grade the group that way, but only that I can see what the group has.
I have never used Google Drive for Blackboard uses. So is there anybody up here who can demonstrate what this looks like?
So
we will, yeah, we'll be going through that today.
Okay.
So do you?
If I have a computer.
Yeah, we'll have computers that you can use, and it'll be hands-on, some hands-on stuff you can do, so fret not.
And I wanted to highlight too, when I was first learning how to do this, it seemed really overwhelming. Like, oh my goodness, creating these videos, creating these upland practice problems, just seems like a lot of work. But the great thing about Blackboard is course copy. One click, it transfers to your next class. You may have to go in and tweak some due dates, update some material if you have to. But once you do it once, it's really just rinse and repeat, and it's very easy to just copy that class again.
I actually have a question for Shalonda. On your course page, you showed that you had an individualized banner.
Yes.
Okay, so did you just do that off of the home page and then where it says banner editor statement?
Yes.
And you just imported that out of a file that you had on your? Okay.
Yes. It's that was a trick that I learned from Stephanie, because for the longest time my homepage just looked like everyone else's, nothing on it. But just to make it look a little bit different, and students commented about it. It's just basically finding an image that you would like to use and you won't get sick of seeing every time you go into Blackboard.
So I was interested in that too. Do you have instructions on how to do that?
I am sure we do.
We do, and I have an idea now because I'm thinking you can upload any type of image that you want, but probably giving everyone some dimensions and what the image should be would be helpful, because otherwise you might have an image that's like this large. So yeah, we definitely have instructions that we can send out.
Now, what about directions on what they can use to edit the image to get it to the right sizes that they need?
Yep.
Okay, fantastic.
Thanks.
Any other questions?
And I will say, for video content, the biggest challenge is making the videos. That's where 99% of the time is. Getting them incorporated into Blackboard, there's a lot of great resources and help here that you can sort of turn to. So once you have the video, getting it up is easy. Putting it together is a challenge. And of that challenge, my experience is the editing is the hardest part. And so speaking a little bit slower and making sure that you don't have to go back and cut things out of your video is a great way to save time, because the post-recording processing is where most of the time I find is spent. So I try to just roll through my 15 minutes in one shot, one take, no edits.
Catherine had a question.
And and you don't have to answer this, maybe this is too specific, but it's back to this, Shalonda, especially because I feel like you have this discussion-based class. I'm wondering if something I struggle with, of course, is kids come in, my course, they're reading a lot of heavy primary source text, they're reading, Aristotle and, it's hard stuff for them, and They come in, they don't understand it. So I'm wondering if there's things that I can put up there. Is there anything you've had success with getting kids to come in ready to discuss more than your group of 6 that will always discuss? Like how to pull in those kids. I'm wondering, is it these little pre-lecture, is it a pre-lecture video? Is it a 5-minute? Like, do I give them a recap of the lecture before I've given the lecture? You know, because the reading is hard. Or do I try to go over the main points of the readings maybe ahead of time? I kind of usually wait to do that in class. I have PowerPoints, I go over everything, but it's hard to get them to discuss. You want them talking more in the class. I'm just wondering if you have any little tricks that you use to get them to talk more.
So one trick that my students probably don't like that much is that I make it a requirement on the syllabus that they participate. So they actually get a grade for in-class discussion and or in-class participation. So they're forced to, and I'm very open with them that they will not get a grade for participation if they do not participate. And it's not that they have to have like really in-depth knowledge of whatever we're talking about, but participate, give your opinion. A lot of what we talk about is based on opinion. So there's no reason that they shouldn't be just interjecting every once in a while. And I don't require them to speak every class 5 times per class, but you have to participate.
A lot of stuff that she does also is current events that are like, you know, really engaging.
So they want to talk about it.
So they want to talk about it. Also, with Kaltura, you can pull in like YouTube videos. So if you find YouTube videos and other things that you want to pull in and use, you can also do that.
Yeah, I'm thinking that's maybe what I need to do ahead, because I also pull in a lot of current events, even though we do all this old stuff. We do, and I do movies, and we're talking about Batman. I mean, like, so what I'm thinking, sometimes you get the kids, they don't, I mean, you think, I come in and think they're going to know something that's in the news, and unfortunately, more than half of them have no idea that it happened, or something that happened a year ago. They don't seem to have any knowledge of some of this stuff. So maybe that's what I need to do, is put the article up ahead, or a little video up ahead. Not me lecturing, but maybe it's background info or something to get them.
So this isn't necessarily Blackboard related, but one thing that was very successful for me this semester was doing 4-corner discussions in the classroom. So basically you put a strongly agree, strongly disagree, agree, disagree in the 4 corners of the room. And it forces students to stand up and take their position on whatever we're talking about in the classroom. And so if there is one person in the strongly disagree corner, I will definitely focus on that person. Why are you there? And sometimes they'll change their opinion based on the discussions within the room. So I don't know how you would put that onto Blackboard, and I don't even think that it would work on Blackboard.
Right, it's a great idea.
It definitely work in the classroom.
So you mentioned that participation is something that you require in grade.
Yes.
How do you track that in real time when you're lecturing and all?
So because of the format of the class, I know every day who is talking. I'm not making check marks or anything like that, but I can tell who was participating, and it's also reflected in their online discussion posts. Whether they're so it's a combination of their online discussion posts and in-class discussion.
Because one thing I did recently was to incorporate. I make them post what the question they asked or answered in class.
Oh, that's a good idea.
As a 1-point assignment, and it has to be within a week, because they could make up anything, they asked or answered, and it just goes right to my grade book to grade, grade, and if I remember it, they get that 1 point, and it goes right to the grade book.
Okay.
This way, there's no dispute over, I asked this or answered this, but trying to grade in real time while you're conducting the class is pretty tough.
So I've never had a student complain about their in-class participation grade, because if they're not talking, they know they're not talking.
I do the same thing. Like I grade real time, like basically the same thing. Like participation is heavily weighted in the class, and so I right after class, I usually take you like 5 minutes. Like I could just, it's like 2.5 points a class. So if you've said nothing for 75 minutes or 2.5 hours, depending on where I'm teaching it, I could tell really easily.
And you record that?
And I just record it each week, like right there, and it's like a running total. So by the end.
Because I do the same thing, but I forget by the end of the term, did they talk a lot?
Yeah.
So
I just do it right
I have to
after
do it like after class, otherwise I forget.
So you have columns like right in your grade book?
Participation.
Is that participation, but you have it broken down like each class
No.
period, you're saying?
No, it doesn't.
Oh,
become-
you just keep adding on every class.
So
Okay.
it's like worth total of 60 points out of
Got
that
it.
class.
Okay.
Each class, like I've broken it down because I teach it in, 75 minutes and I teach it in 2.5 hours. So for every 75 minutes, it's 2.5 points or whatever. So if they just come, because one of the things I found is that before, students who come every class, that's important, right? There's students who don't come that much and talk a lot. Okay, that's something. So I wanted to be able to sort of parse that out. If you come all the time, if you come and you say nothing, you get like a half point or something like that. But if you, so that sort of thing. And if they're late, that affects their participation because we have a absence policy and a late policy in our department. So that will get impacted right there in their participation. So.
You have a question?
Yeah, I have a question actually for you and for Nicole, because I teach public speaking, and there's lots of great samples out there with all the textbooks. You can get tons of videos. The problem comes is in the second half of the year, I teach scientific speaking for the sophomore engineering clinic.
I'm so sorry.
The issue is there are not great technical speeches out there other than what is, like a TED Talk, and that's not really what we're trying to achieve with them. So I'm curious about how you facilitate it, getting your students recorded, because every semester I have like one speech I go, this really needs to be recorded so I can use it to show the engineers later on what they really should be doing.
Yeah. So I mean, that's what happened this semester. I had one group that sort of really hit it, and so I immediately thought, I was like, oh my gosh, I remember them saying that they have this resource, and I reached out to the students immediately and said, would you be willing to do this? So the student who gave the speech that you're like, this is awesome, and I ended up, and they didn't even ask, but I ended up giving it to them because I gave them additional participation points because this was above and beyond. Like some of them drove an hour to come back to do this. But just reach out to the student and say, like, you really gave a great presentation. Would you mind this being, coming and just recording it? And it took like an hour of their time, and you can give them participation or something for that. But then it'll serve as a resource for other students of what you're looking for. Right?
Yeah, that's what I firmly believe, because I keep every semester and I can't find one that actually does all the points that we really need for the engineering clinic. And I'm like, we can videotape in class, but the videos are, over in Victoria are not as strong as they really should be.
Right.
Yeah. So it would be networking with you then to make sure that we can get a couple of those done.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Did you have a question?
Yeah, so I had like a question and one thing that's sort of work that was talked about previously. So I'll go with what was talked about previously with like some of the problem solving sessions and things like that. I've had 2 good success stories with putting stuff on Blackboard. And this is sort of an advertisement for the room we're sitting in now. One time they had students had an exam the day after the Super Bowl, which was already a mistake by the didn't know that the Super Bowl was basically a holiday. What happened was students, the Saturday before the Super Bowl, I start getting notifications for a lot of communication. We use Slack in our classes. And my phone started going off like crazy. They're like, hey, we need help, like, we don't understand this. I was able to take out, I just have a basic little Android tablet, like a Galaxy Tab. And with Blackboard, I was able to just basically do a quick screen capture of like a problem, because they weren't understanding a concept. They were saying, why am I getting this if I run it in a simulation, but this if I do it by hand? Why are they different? And I was able to quickly like capture like a 10-minute video, put it up on Blackboard, and they were immediately able to see it. So that helped them out a lot. And a second one was the second success was actually the one in this room. So I actually networked with you a lot this past semester to set up basically a recitation session, so a problem solving session that would run every week. Originally I was running it 3 times a week. I was the TA, so I was kind of responsible for having office hours. And one of the things was we ran it 3 times a week, but even at 3 different times a week with the same problems, people still couldn't come. And to try and make it as fair as possible, I'm like, okay, I'll record one, because I've done recording before. And what ended up happening was, I'm like, a lot of times it's harder to get whiteboard or get, a whole room. And then talking with Carlton, figured out this room. Beautiful setup for that. So what we were able to do is, if you're trying to capture something that either needs a computer or a ton of whiteboard or anything like that, what we were able to do is I was able to pull students in here. 8 o'clock at night. I had to get public safety to unlock the door and everything, but there's 4 whiteboards, 5 whiteboards here, 2 TVs, and you can actually capture everything on the TV. And the setup they have in here makes it very, very easy for me to do pull up a problem and do a quick picture-in-picture. So that way for all your editing, that was what we mentioned previously, was a lot of time in editing. The tools here actually can cut that time down by a lot. And it was really, really successful. The students had a lot of fun. Some people were actually coming to that particular problem-solving session because it was being recorded. They really liked it, and one thing that I made it a good learning point for them was I would only do one guided problem on my own. So I'd start the session out by being like, okay, here's a basic problem to kind of introduce what other problems we're going to do. Every other problem we did, we had a different student explain it. So I'd actually take the camera, zoom it in on their whiteboard that they worked on, and I had them explain what they did for the problem. So it kind of forced them to actually participate as well. And my question becomes, for the trimming down, because I've had also videos, I mean, I tell the people in engineering, if they want to just get started with recording stuff, I mean, just start recording. Don't think you have to have this big production just to make your first video. Just record a lecture and chop it. And then you can go from there. So you can progress and say, you know what, I liked encapsulating this, I'll work on a dedicated video. Either in the Kaltura or Blackboard or anything that we have, any of the media stuff that we have. Do we have any in-depth analytics to see, like, you know, maybe where students are like starting, stopping, like?
Yes, a lot of that is built into Kaltura. It may not be turned on in all circumstances. I think it's turned on inside the Blackboard. It may be a little hard to find, but you can see how long they watch, when they started watching, you know, their drop-off rate for the entire class, when they kind of tend to stop, you know, a whole bunch of stuff. So all that stuff is capable to do. And also in this class, just to piggyback on what you were talking about, it's interesting because we do have all this stuff like whiteboards that move, and you know the cameras there, they record, so you can record what's going on in the classroom as far as the cameras will come out. And that little plate that's on the wall back there, all you do is stick in a USB thumb drive, and it'll record what's happening inside the room. And then you can switch cameras and switch inputs and you know all kinds of crazy stuff. So glad that worked out for you. We got about 3 minutes left. Any more questions?
I guess one more on a completely other side note. I saw a lot of you were saying that you were making ebooks or like these kind of like, let's use textbook alternatives. Have any of you pursued the program that's been opened up by the library, or have you had any success with that, where they have an initiative, I think it is just called the Textbook Alternative Program or Initiative, where they're able to give grants to faculty members looking to reduce their costs for their classes by supplementing with some other resource than just a generic, you know, in the case of some of these engineering textbooks, you know, $300 textbooks. So I was wondering if any of you have had any success with that, or has anybody pursued that in this room? No. All right, I'll ask it in a year from now. Because we were thinking about pursuing it, and when we asked about it, we even asked about using something as simple as like a Zy book, or like we have these books that are online already, or if we made our own ebook, and the person was like, yeah, sure. We just want people to start, you know, making our classes cheaper. So that might be an opportunity. Like I said, I just didn't know if anybody in here had
Bill, did you have something to say?
We just selected a new textbook that actually will be online, and students will be allowed, will be expected to use what they call Cengage, and so they have WebAssign. So I can do my homework on that, but I'm not going to grade it the way they would grade it on a grading system. So with all the things that people do, it doesn't necessarily always match exactly what you want to have happen in your classroom anyway. Cengage's WebAssign can actually be accessed through Blackboard. And so, as far as I'm concerned, I'm still going to continue to use Blackboard as my grading component. I'm going to use Blackboard to do my journals and other things like that, because they're not accessible through the textbook. So, you know, even when you have alternative stuff and having the ability for kids to do that stuff online that they had to do with the textbook before, I think will make it better, but it doesn't solve all problems.
Cool. All right, well, we are just about out of time. We want to take a 15-minute break before we start our next session, where Stephanie and Eileen will go through a checklist of things that you can do to kind of wrap up your course for the semester. in Blackboard.
I want to thank the panel.
Thank you for your time.